Next tonight, police have dropped a rape and sexual assault investigation into Romford MP Andrew Rossendale. Scotland Yard said a thorough investigation had been carried out and the evidence threshold for criminal prosecution had not been met. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has this report.
Andrew Rossendale could once count Margaret Thatcher as a friend. Long after she retired, she made a surprise appearance at Romford Market to bolster his election campaign. But 21 months ago, Romford's Conservative MP found himself at the centre of a police investigation. In May 2022, he was arrested on suspicion of rape, indecent assault, sexual assault, abuse of position of trust and misconduct in public office. Andrew Rossendale hasn't been seen in Parliament since around the time of his arrest. He's continued working as an MP in his constituency, but it's normal practice for MPs under investigation by the police to voluntarily stay away from the parliamentary estate. Now Scotland Yard has told Mr Rossendale he won't be prosecuted. In a statement, a spokesperson said a thorough investigation has been carried out by detectives. They concluded that the evidence did not meet the threshold set by Crown prosecutors. The man has been informed he will face no further action. London Assembly member Keith Prince is a long-time friend.
It's been very tough on Andrew because lots of people have been making false allegations against him. People have been quite rude to him on occasions. And of course he hasn't been able to do the job that he absolutely loves, which is representing the people of Romford.
Why do you think the police have taken so long?
It's got to be incompetence. Can't think of any other answer, really.
Mr Rossendale hasn't spoken publicly, but his office issued a statement on his behalf saying Andrew has been completely exonerated. He has been working constantly for Romford throughout the past 21 months and will continue to speak up for the people of his beloved hometown as their local MP. Scotland Yard said it was first made aware of allegations against the MP in January 2020, more than 4 years ago.
It's very unusual for an investigation like this to have taken 4 years, and I think the likelihood is, because of the fact that this was a high-profile individual, that the police wanted to ensure that they crossed all their T's and dotted their I's, that they worked consulted with the Crown Prosecution Service in order for the decision to be made. But 4 years is a considerably lengthy time.
Tonight, Scotland Yard said it always conducted inquiries as efficiently as possible. Andrew Rossendale is expected to be back in Parliament next week. Simon Harris, ITV News, Westminster.
Next tonight, the long-running saga of Hammersmith Bridge. A Lib Dem MP has accused the government of a cover-up after so-called secret meetings were held between TfL, Hammersmith Council and the Department for Transport about the costly repair works. The bridge reopened temporarily to cyclists today after almost 5 years, with works pausing for 10 weeks. With a £250 million repair bill looming, questions over who decides how the public money is spent is causing a stir in Parliament, as our political correspondent Simon Harris now reports.
The sorry saga of London's broken bridge on the River Thames took another turn today. For much of the past 4 years, Hammersmith Bridge has been open only to people on foot and cyclists pushing their bikes, not riding them. But today, a temporary 10-week bike lane opened.
There was a lot of people getting angry with people trying to cycle in the pedestrian section, so to have this back open just makes it just easier to cross the river.
It's very useful because it means I can cycle over it or save me a few minutes.
It's fantastic. So many people do cycle across this bridge, and since it's been closed they've had to walk their bikes, so some people have given up.
Whoa! This good news for cyclists is a bizarre consequence of a crash involving a boatload of West Ham fans in December. The damage has forced engineers to pause their work to stabilise the bridge, but it's added another £100,000 to the final bill. When the bridge closed to traffic in 2019, the cost of repairing it was put at £40 million. Today, that's risen to £250 million. And there's still no firm timetable for rebuilding the bridge, let alone reopening it to traffic. It's owned by Hammersmith and Fulham Council, which wants Transport for London and the government to pay the lion's share. Richmond Park MP Sarah Olney claims the three parties are having fortnightly secret meetings.
They're not being minuted, we don't know who's attending, we don't know what's being discussed. All we know is that there are discussions happening about the future of Hammersmith Bridge and they're completely excluding my residence here in Richmond.
The Department for Transport insisted it did take a record at meetings where decisions about the bridge are taken. Meanwhile, people on both sides are left in limbo.
My best guess, honestly, as to when the bridge will fully reopen to motor traffic is Not in my lifetime, if ever.
The government is said to be considering Hammersmith and Fulham's business plan to rebuild the bridge, which may or may not involve introducing tolls. Simon Harris, ITV News, Barnes.
Next tonight, an elderly disabled man in Edmonton says he's been left too scared to use the car he relies on because he keeps getting ULEZ fines despite being granted an exemption. Frankie McDonald raised the issue with the Mayor's office after attempts to contact TfL failed, but the only support offered to him was a web link to a mental health charity. With the penalty charges reaching close to £1,000, Frankie has accused TfL of failing Londoners. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has been to meet him.
Frankie McDonald's classic Mini Cooper is his pride and joy, but driving it around Edmonton, where he lives, has cost him 5 ULEZ fines in 5 days. Frankie, a retired nurse, is recovering from a broken back and is registered disabled. Yet Transport for London's ULEZ software didn't recognise his blue badge exemption.
It's terrifying because the charges are £180 per penalty charge notice, or £90 if you pay it within 14 days. Well, as an elderly gentleman living on as an old age pensioner, and I don't have the money to pay London Transport all these penalty charge notices that shouldn't have been applied because I've got a letter saying that I am exempt.
Frankie says he contacted Transport for London, but as we spoke to him, another 2 penalty charge notices fell through his letterbox.
Penalty charge notice from London Transport, TfL. It's just unnecessary stress that TfL have put me through, when clearly I've got a letter stating that I am ULEZ exempt.
When Frankie emailed the Mayor to complain, a City Hall official suggested he contact a mental health charity, saying, if you feel like you need to talk to someone about your situation, you can get in touch with Mind, who can provide support and advice. What do you think of that?
Disgraceful, absolutely thoroughly disgusting and disgraceful that I made a letter of complaint about the way TfL is handling me as an individual, and then to be told that, you need to refer yourself to the mental health charity called Mind.
Is something going wrong with the management of ULEZ?
Well, look, the great news about the ULEZ expansion is now more than 90 out of 20 cars are compliant and apologise to this person for the inconvenience he's been caused, for the anxiety and stress he's been caused. I will go and look at his individual case. The good news is 95% of vehicles are now compliant.
I would say to the Mayor of London, please get your act together when it comes to TfL.
TfL's ULEZ checker was still showing Frankie's Mini liable for the £12.50 charge. He has no doubt that the next post will deliver another fine.
Simon, what are the chances of this getting sorted out for Frankie then?
Well, you heard Sadiq Khan there apologise to Frankie McDonald and say he would look into it. Well, clearly he put some wheels in motion, because a few minutes ago Transport for London contacted us to admit it had failed to register his car properly as ULEZ exempt. It apologised for the distress it caused, it's cancelled the fines and is looking into how this happened. But you do wonder just how many other Londoners have been affected in the same way.
Yeah, the power of getting you round. Thank you, Simon.
A £6.3 million rebrand of commuter rail lines to honour the Windrush generation and suffragettes has sparked a row today after Sadiq Khan's main election rival accused him of virtue signalling nonsense. The London Overground lines will be renamed and given different colours on the tube map, which Transport for London says is essential for passengers to navigate the network and celebrate London's diversity. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
For a decade and a half, it's been a familiar brand, but now it's all change on the Overground. The network's being divided into 6 lines, with new names to reflect London's diversity and history. There's a suffragette line and a football-focused Lioness line.
It's a line that actually passes through Wembley, the arch, from Watford Junction through to London Euston, crossing the Wembley arch. So it's a nice line to be recognised.
Another line will remember the Windrush generation.
Younger people will realise that there's a history and an importance of having a line, and that line will be there, far, beyond my own lifetime. And in that sense, it's a good thing for the young people.
There's also a Mildmay line honouring the hospital which treated patients during the AIDS crisis, a Weaver line paying tribute to the East End rag trade, and a Liberty line to celebrate freedom.
I think that's excellent. I this modern day and age, moving forward.
I suspect there'll be a lot of confusion, but it is nice.
Could be a good idea, I suppose, yeah. The Windrush, because of the Windrush.
I think it's a silly idea. Yeah, I think things should be left as they are.
It's also led inevitably to a political row. To many Londoners, the orange-branded overground is known simply as the Ginger Line. Replacing maps and signs with the new names and colours will cost more than £6 million. Transport for London is short of money. Clapped-out trains on the Central Line are causing daily disruption for commuters.
It's virtual signalling nonsense, quite frankly. It's a disgraceful waste of £6.3 million.
I'm not sure what the Conservative candidate has against the Windrush generation. I'm not sure what she's got against the LGBT+ community. It's for her to explain.
Look at the Central Line. People don't know if they're going to get a train to work or not.
The reality is that line needs billions of pounds of expenditure, which only the government can give.
There's so many things that Londoners need that he could have spent that money on.
So I know she never uses the buses, maybe she never uses the overground either.
The new names were chosen after a consultation, but will they stick?
People will always have their own names for things. The Elizabeth Line gets known as the Lizzie Line. I think they will embrace these new names and make them their own in the way that Londoners do.
The new names and new colours will begin to appear before the end of the year.
And Simon's at Russell Square now. Simon, some news tonight about strikes on both the Overground and Underground.
Yes, Caroline, the Overground now carries more than 3 million passengers a week. But on Monday and Tuesday, many of those commuters would have to find another way to get to work because drivers on the Overground were planning a 2-day strike over pay. However, in the last couple of hours, the RMT has said it's been given a revised pay offer by the train company Arriva Rail London, so it's suspended that strike. Separately, you might recall that the RMT was planning a series of strikes, a week-long series of strikes on the Underground in January, again over pay. But at the last minute, they were called off after the Mayor came up with extra money, an extra £30 million, much to the consternation of his political opponents. Well, this afternoon, the RMT says it's now agreed a new pay deal with London Underground, which will see some tube workers, the lowest paid, getting a pay rise of up to 10%. That's twice the rate of inflation. Other workers will get a 5% pay rise plus a lump sum of £1,000. Now, those offers have to be put to the other unions as well, but we expect that they will be accepted, which should mean no further strikes. The Mayor's opponents accused him of buying off the unions to avoid embarrassing strikes in the run-up to May's mayoral election.
OK, Simon, potentially good news. Thanks very much.